Hello and welcome to the class. I am Vishali Sharma, your psychology educator, and today is the last lecture of the whole chapter. We are completed with the whole chapter. I guess it's the 10th part, and we'll be discussing about emotional intelligence and creativity today. So, these are certain things about myself, and if you want to join my live classes, you may contact on the number given below. Let's begin. Emotional intelligence. First, I'll be reading out the definition to you. So, it is the ability to perceive emotion, to assess and generate emotion so as to assist thought, to understand emotions and emotional knowledge, and to reflectively regulate emotions so as to promote emotional and intellectual growth. Mayer and Salovey, these two people were the first one to do work on emotional intelligence. So they said that it's not just how to control your emotion, it's actually to perceive it. मतलब अपने आप पहचानना कि क्या इमोशन है, उसको असेस करना, उससे हमारे थॉट को मतलब हमारा अगर कोई थॉट है तो उससे हमें इमोशनल नॉलेज लेके उस थॉट को गवर्न करना, एंड देन उससे हमें अंडरस्टैंड करना एक इमोशन को और दूसरों के भी इमोशन की नॉलेज को प्राप्त करना एंड उन पे भी रिफ्लेक्ट करना. सो ये हमारी इमोशनल एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल दोनों की ग्रोथ के लिए बहुत अच्छा होता है. एंड देन वी हैव इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस विच इज अ सेट ऑफ skills, not just one or two or three type of skills, but a set of skills where you need to appraise it properly, you need to express it properly, you need to regulate your emotions properly. Then we come to the 5 components of emotional intelligence, and I'm telling you these are not given by Mayer and Salovey, but they're given by Goldman. Okay, so this is the name of the researcher, Goldman. So he gave 5 components: self-awareness, self-management, social relationship management, and empathy and motivation. So first of all, self-awareness, खुद की awareness, when we have to take awareness on the part that how am I feeling right now. If I'm feeling very sad on somebody else's achievement, then I have to cover up that sadness because that is the celebration for the other person. You know what I'm telling? When you're very jealous of your friend's achievement, then you need to cover up your jealousy because that is how you will be shown as a mature person. Then there is a self management. What is self management? It is basically the portion of controlling your own jealousy in front of the public where you cannot really express that particular emotion. And then there is a social relationship management, which is basically the relationship that is that you have with your maybe partner, maybe parents, maybe friends, maybe neighbors. So these relationships needs to be managed. You cannot be just avoidant of everybody. You'll be like, nahi mujhe nahi baat karni aise, no I don't want to go there, no I don't want to meet them. This is not the way you deal with your relationships in your surrounding. You cannot be ignorant and avoidant all the time. You need to attend the parties, you need to attend social gatherings, you need to behave in a particular manner if you want to be called emotionally intelligent. Then we have empathy, not sympathy, it's empathy. Empathy and sympathy are two very different things. Sympathy is अरे बेचारा उसके साथ तो बहुत बुरा हुआ, but empathy is I can feel what you are going through. This is basically putting yourself into the other person's shoes. This is actually feeling the emotion that the other person is having currently and being with them, and not just saying bichara or not just be like oh no. Being with that person is empathy. It's a very very deep skill. Then we have motivation. So we should have a motivation to achieve. You should not be very lethargic and sleeping all the time because everything is done in your life. Get a meaningful job, get a meaningful work to be done in the day, and go ahead with the motivation. Then we have characteristics of emotionally intelligent person. What are the particular characteristics? Yesterday we discussed about the characteristics of intellectually gifted people. Now we will be discussing about emotionally intelligent person. So first of all, they're better able to perceive the sensitive feeling of yours and emotions. So sensitive feelings, there are certain sensitive feelings. So if I see like the other person having tears on the edge of their eyes, then I'll be like very much vigilant on the path that what is wrong with that person. No, people can be ignorant, but a person who's emotionally intelligent will go ask them, console them, soothe them, so that they are better able to be in that surrounding. If they're like बॉस ने डांट दिया, टीचर ने डांट दिया, or maybe lecturer ने डांट दिया, somebody have scolded them or something bad happened to them, if somebody have died, some bad breakup or something. So then we have that we will notice their body language, their voice, their tone, their facial expression. It won't be just oh वो तो रो रही थी इसलिए मुझे लगा दुखी है. No, people can be very joyous and smiling, but then also they're very deeply sad inside. Then we have that relate your emotions to your thoughts. So now you need to relate your emotions. So how am I feeling? And if I'm feeling this way, then how am I thinking? So if I'm feeling sad, that is why I'm thinking everything is sad around me, everything happening around me is sad, everything happening going on in my mind is sad because I'm feeling sad currently. Then understanding and power to influence, that is like if my emotion is such, then I will have some energy to basically influence my surroundings by those emotions of myself. Then we have control and regulate your emotions. You cannot be laughing in the funeral and you cannot be crying in the birthday party. So that is the basic example. Then we have aptitude. So you might be wondering what is interest and what is aptitude. Interest and aptitude are two very different things. Interest is something that you like, but aptitude is something that you possess. Aptitude is an underlining potential. It's not just something that you like, but also something that you possess genetically. If I possess the ability to excel in academics and dancing, maybe that is in me because of my genes. But I developed the interest gradually because I knew that how to dance, how to teach, how to read, how to excel in academics. So here basically we have two different types of tests to check the aptitude of the person. They can be only independent tests, checking only clerical aptitude, only mechanical aptitude, only numerical aptitude, or only typing aptitude, whereas they can be multiple generalized aptitude tests which will be checking all these in one go. So there is differential aptitude test battery, there is general test aptitude test battery, there's armed service vocational aptitude battery, and these are usually in the form of batteries because all the above tests that are mentioned in the independent test, you will have all of them in just one battery. Then we have these dimensions that differential aptitude test battery is measuring. So they have verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, perceptual speed and accuracy. Then we have mechanical reasoning, special relations, spellings and language usage. Then we have creativity. We have heard multiple times that this person is very creative, that person is very creative, a mehndi artist is very creative, a dancer is very creative, a painter is very creative. But what do you know about creativity? So creativity has inspiration, has vision, has idea. There are people who brainstorm, there are people who has great mind, they do imagination, motivation, knowledge and innovation. Then we have important points to be kept in mind about creativity. So people who have poetry as their occupation, carpentry, cooking, these people are very creative because they think in a different way to make a beautiful art. Then we have a lot of people who might not be intellectually very great, or we can say not very much high IQ people, but they can possess creativity. It doesn't matter if you are like very intelligent, then only you can be creative. No, bilkul bhi nahi. You need to possess a minimal amount of intelligence to be creative, because you can be very creative, very artistic in a particular form of a particular art, but that doesn't mean you need to be intelligent, intellectually intelligent or academically intelligent for that matter. Then we have that researchers have pointed out the positive relationship between intelligence and creativity. Obviously, if somebody is very intelligent, they will be creative. Like, not always, like somebody who's very intelligent not always will be creative, but obviously if the person has both of them, they will have a positive correlation. Because if somebody is intelligent, also creative, artistically, painter, dancer or anything, then that's a positive correlation between the two. Then we have minimum ability to acquire knowledge and capacity to comprehend, retain and retrieve. So we must have this minimum ability. Okay. Then we have creativity given by J.P. Guilford. So J.P. Guilford talked about that his work is on the basis of hypothesis that he measured the unpopular belief during the middle or the last century. In fact, the most of the 20th century psychologists believe that IQ and creativity were linked. The high IQ means high creativity, and conversely, the low IQ means lower creativity. That is how they did the research. But I totally don't believe in it that the people who have high intelligence will have high creativity. I have seen multiple people with low intelligence but high creativity, and multiple people with very, very, very low creativity but very high intelligence. Then we have the alternative use test by J.P. Guilford. So people were given the paper clip, the mug, coffee mug, or brick or chair. Then they were asked about the multiple uses of it. I am also giving you a test. Just pause the video and see how many uses you can make from a paper clip, or a chair, or a brick, or a coffee, or like coffee mug, or like these things, books and all. Okay, so there was an experiment that was there. So this was the candle problem. Here, the Carl Dunker did these three things he provided. First was this matchstick box, then was the candle, and then was this board pin. Then they were asked to put the candle on the wall, but people were not able to understand how to do it. You also think, how are you going to like really hang the candle on the wall without actually doing any sticking or anything except like using these three? You just need to use these three to put it out on the wall. Think. Okay, so here was the solution, that you just pin the matchstick box, take out all the matchsticks from it. Matchstick box needed to be pinned, then the candle needed to be placed in that box, and the candle can be burned. So this was creativity, my friend. Then creativity tests were open-ended and were measuring divergent thinking. I already told you that the close-ended test is the test that is only asking you one-word answer, like yes, no, or maybe neutral, agree, strongly disagree. So these are the words that you need to opt. These are the close-ended one. But in the open-ended, you need to write down the answer, you need to paint the art, you need to express your words, and you need to bring more and more and more ideas. So that is divergent thinking. And that's the major difference between the intelligence and the creative test also. So intelligence test is basically measuring convergent thinking. Like you give the test of this particular first chapter to me. So this particular first chapter will only and only be measuring the intelligence you possess about this chapter, not the whole book, or not the whole branch of psychology, or not the whole academic even. So that is actually measuring the convergent thinking, your convergent accuracy, reasoning, perceptual ability, memory, and logical reasoning. Then your creative test measures the divergent thinking. It's not just measuring your one area, it's measuring your whole area. When I'm making a choreography, I'm going around my whole brain to check which step will fit in this particular tune, rather than only thinking about a particular chapter to come up with the answer that has been asked in the question paper. So here you will have basically the relationship that maybe like unseemly you will be thinking that, oh no, this is not something that I was thinking about. But yes, that can be also done this way. So here you put things in like out of context things into the context and make a very original, spontaneous imagination. For example, these were the creative tests developed by Guilford, Torrance, Cathin, Balish, Kogan, Paramish, Bocard, Mehdi, and Passy. So you need to actually draw the painting behind these cues given to you. So these were the creative tests given by these people. And with that, we are done with our whole first chapter. And with that, I'm very grateful for you guys to watch the whole series of first chapter, and if you'd like, please do upvote and share and subscribe. Thank you.